You've seen the photos. The perfectly lit rooms. The cable management that looks like it was designed by a surgeon, the ultra-wide monitors curving like a horizon, and the centerpiece, the tower. A monolith of tempered glass and liquid cooling, pulsating with synchronized RGB lights, housing an RTX 4090 that costs more than a used car. We call it the ultimate setup. We tell ourselves it's an investment. We tell ourselves that this hardware is the engine of our future productivity. But if you look at the raw, unweighted data of your own life, that setup isn't an asset. It's a beautifully lit cage. It is a high-definition trap that most people fall into before they even have their first real paycheck. The cynical truth is that your high-end setup is designed to do one thing: keep you so entertained and so broke that you never have the energy to build anything of actual value. An RTX doesn't pay your bills. It doesn't write your code. It doesn't secure your network. It just renders the distraction in higher resolution while your real life stays stuck in low poly mode. Welcome to the Great Human Lab, where the most effective way to keep a rat on the wheel is to make the wheel look like a cockpit. We've been conditioned to believe that gamer is an identity, and that this identity requires a specific set of hardware. We've been sold a narrative that if we just have the right chair, the right keyboard, and enough frames per second, we will somehow transition from being a consumer to being a pro. But the lab owners know better. They know that every dollar you spend on a GPU you do UNT use for work is a dollar that is UNT working for you. They know that while you're chasing a 240 Hz refresh rate, your bank account is refreshing at a rate of 0. Most people spend their 20s and 30s building a shrine to leisure, and they wonder why their lives feel like a series of loading screens. Before we deconstruct the specific marketing algorithms that turned a tool into a status symbol, do me a favor. If you appreciate this kind of direct, no-fluff reality that peels back the layers of the tech industry, hit the subscribe button and give this video a like. Most channels will tell you to buy the upgrade. It helps the channel stay alive in an ecosystem that prefers unboxing videos over realistic cynicism. Now, let's talk about the dopamine tax. Building a high-end gaming PC is the ultimate dopamine loop. The research, the component selection, the assembly, it feels like you're doing something productive. You're building a system. But once the last fan is plugged in and the OS is installed, what happens? For 95% of people, that machine becomes a black hole for time. You spend $3,000 to play games you've already played, or worse, to play games that aren't even out yet. You become a hardware enthusiast, which is just a fancy term for a high-value consumer. You aren't learning the stack. You aren't mastering the machine. You're just the person paying for the privilege of testing the lab's new toys. The technical reality of why this trap is so effective is artificial obsolescence. The hardware manufacturers and the game developers are in a feedback loop. The games get more demanding, not because they are better, but because they need to justify the new hardware. You buy an RTX 4080 today, and 18 months from now, the algorithm tells you it's a budget card. You feel the itch. You feel the drop in status. You see the stutter in a game that was poorly optimized on purpose, and you reach for your credit card again. You are running a race where the finish line moves 10 feet every time you take 5 steps. This is the no-fluff truth. The goal is UNT for you to have a good experience. The goal is for you to be in a perpetual state of almost there. Now, look, I'm not saying you shouldn't have a good station. If you're a developer, a designer, or a security researcher, your environment matters. But you need to distinguish between pro gear and bait. Pro gear increases your output. Bait increases your distraction. If you're going to spend money, spend it on the things that actually provide a return on your energy ergonomics, reliable peripherals, and hardware that doesn't hang when you're compiling or running virtual environments. If you actually want to build a setup that serves you instead of consuming you, I've put a link in the description to a curated list of high-performance components and gear. These are the tools I'd recommend for people who are serious about building value, not just chasing lights. Don't buy the RGB hype. Buy the durability that allows you to work without bottlenecks. The psychology of the setup trap is built on the concept of the identity of the expert. You think that by owning the tools of an expert, you become an expert. It's like buying $1,000 set of knives and assuming he now a chef. But the knives don't cook the food. The 4090 doesn't understand the Linux kernel. The mechanical keyboard doesn't make your logic more sound. In fact, some of the most dangerous hackers and most brilliant developers in the world are working on laptops from 5 years ago with cracked screens. Why? Because they know that the power is in the head, not the tower. They know that the user interface of life is a distraction from the back end of reality. Think about the financial cost of this obsession. Let's say you spend $4,000 on a top-tier setup. If you're like most people, you financed at least part of it, or you used money that should have been in your emergency fund, that $4,000 is now a depreciating asset. The moment you open the box, it loses 30% of its value. By the time you've paid it off, the hardware is already legacy. Meanwhile, if you had taken that same money and invested it in your own technical education or a high-yield asset, it would be growing. The setup trap forces you to trade your most valuable resource capital for the one thing the lab owners want to give you: a high-resolution window into their world. The cynicism runs deeper when you look at streaming culture. We see people making millions with high-end setups, and we think the setup is the reason for their success. We buy the same chair, the same microphone, the same lighting. We are simulating success while incurring real debt. We are rats trying to look like the lab owners by wearing their clothes. But the streamers aren't successful because of the art. They are successful because they are the entertainment for the rest of the rats. They are the ones who turned the cage into a stage. If you're watching them from your expensive chair, you aren't the co-star. You're the audience, you're the product. To break this cycle, you have to refactor your relationship with technology. You have to stop viewing hardware as an identity and start viewing it as a utility. Ask yourself, how does this purchase increase my hourly value? If it doesn't, it's a toy. There is nothing wrong with toys. But don't lie to yourself and call them investments. When you stop chasing the ultimate setup, you suddenly have a surplus of time and money. You can stop working the overtime shift at the job you hate, just to pay for the monitor that lets you escape that job for 2 hours a night. You can start building your own floor. The most powerful setup in the world is a clear mind and a deep understanding of the stack. If you can write Python on a potato, you have more leverage than a kid playing Fortnite on a $5,000 rig. If you understand how to navigate a network or secure a database, you are the one who controls the flow of information. You are the one who understands the code that runs the cage. The technical world is a meritocracy of logic, not a pageant of hardware. The compiler doesn't care about your frame rate. The server doesn't care about your cable management. Look at the people in your life who are truly wealthy, not the fake rich with the new cars and the flashy desks, but the ones who actually own their time. You'll notice their setups are often surprisingly simple. They have a tool that works, and they spend their energy using it, not talking about it on forums. They've realized that the gamer trap is just another way to keep the middle class in a state of manageable debt. It's a way to make sure you never have enough saved to say no to a bad situation. It's a way to keep you compliant. Stay cynical about the must-have lists. Stay curious about the code, not the components. And most importantly, stay sharp, build your own value, own your tools, and don't let a piece of silicon be the boss of your bank account. The maze is only as powerful as the distractions it provides. The moment you realize the RTX is just a flashlight in a dark room, you can start looking for the door. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the other side of the upgrade cycle, hopefully with a machine that works for you instead of you working for it. Stay sharp, stay free, stay coding. The reality is that your time is the only thing with a built-in kill switch. Stop wasting it rendering shadows in a digital world when your real-world foundation is crumbling. If you're ready to stop being a consumer and start being a builder, check that link in the description. Get the gear that matters, and then get to work. The lab is waiting for its next product. Don't let it be you. I'll see you in the next one, where we dive into the code behind the curtain. Stay cynical, stay curious, stay solvent.